Thank you, listeners and viewers, and welcome to the Good Enough Mompreneur Podcast. Thank you for joining us. And as you listen today, I want you to ask yourself, what version of success am I chasing? And does it actually support the life that I want as a mom? And today's guest is Chantell Preston. Chantell is a seasoned healthcare executive, CEO, board member, and mom of three. But more than her impressive resume, she brings a grounded, honest perspective on leadership and what it really means to build a life and a business that don't require burning yourself out. She is deeply committed to helping women lead with clarity, emotional intelligence, and compassion. And I'm so excited for you to hear her wisdom she shares in this conversation. So welcome to the podcast, Chantell.
Hi, Angela. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, I'm so excited for this conversation. And I just want to dive right into it. Why is quote unquote having it all and chasing that myth, why is it burning us out so much?
I think, Angela, we're created as kids as to the dream of having it all, right? The
Right.
perfect house, the perfect family, the perfect job. And then you realize perfection just doesn't exist. And we continue to beat our heads on the wall trying to achieve this expectation that just isn't realistic. And so that having it all, I like to reframe it as you can have it all, but just not at the same time. And I
Mm,
think the quicker we realize that, the less pressure we put on ourselves that everything has to be perfect and has to align exactly how we think it's supposed to, because it never does. Even my own journey, I was so focused on the outcome because I thought once I got there, it was going to be, oh my gosh, everything's perfect. I have no more problems. Everything's solved. And then even when you get there, it's like, wait a minute, this is it? Because it's nothing what we expect or what we're told to expect. So I think that perfectionism and that having it all really does us a disservice. And I think we need to reevaluate that in our own lives.
absolutely is why this podcast was even started because I myself arrived there and was like, this is it. Like, what?
Yeah. Yeah. Where's everybody else? And this wasn't near as fun as I thought it was going to be. And so that's why.
Yeah.
But it goes back to a little bit, Angela, about our values and what does success mean? Growing up, I thought success was all about money and title. That's how I grew up in my family. That's what we talked about. And so I was so focused on that. And then when I
Mhm.
got there, I was like, wait, are these my values or are these
Right.
someone else's values? And I think we sometimes don't sit back and say, is society telling me what I need to do and how I need to live? Did
Mm-hmm.
I learn it from my parents? But what do I really want? And what does success mean to me?
Mm-hmm. It's so important that we find our own level of success, or we're gonna just keep burning out. We're
Mhm.
gonna, what is enough for us? What is what we really want? So I think that's so important, and I love that you talk about that. It's something that I think so many women and moms are really figuring out right now. It's like I did all the things, but why do I feel empty? Why do I not feel like I have anything for myself? And I think it also really is important, especially as a business owner, for you to find how to lead others. Because when you're a mom and you're a business owner, you're an automatic leader, whether you
Mhm.
realize it or not. So I
Yep.
really love talking about leadership. I love that you bring that to the forefront. So, one thing that moms really have to deal with as business owners is, gosh, sometimes you're just completely emotionally exhausted by your family life and other things going on in your business. So, how can we find it within ourselves to still lead in those moments?
I think we have to be honest with ourselves. We're not going to show up every single day at 100%. We're just not. We always have things going on. I used to like to control everything, and I think a lot of us are like that. Just give it to me, I can do it better myself. And I think that's really important as a leader to realize when you do need to delegate and when you need to look at your team and be like, hey, I'm at 40% today. I need you guys to step up for me. And I started doing that with my own team. I realized that I wanted them to stop thinking I was this invincible person, right? I'm just like you guys. I have 3 kids, and today was a hellacious day getting everybody to school. And I'm already exhausted, and it's not even 10 o'clock yet. So there are days that I think if you build the right culture within your organization, that people will understand that. And just because you're not 100% doesn't mean you're still not good. It's just you have to be honest with yourself and then look at the people around you. I tell people all the time, it takes a village, right? Especially if you're going to raise kids and run businesses, it takes a village to try to figure out how can I make everything happen in the way I need it to do. So what things can I do to make my life easier or to delegate to others that will help me not get to that burnout point?
And again, that whole, like you mentioned, that burnout and that leadership and the common denominator to not letting those things be difficult is dropping the perfectionism, right?
Yeah. Well, there's a few. That's one of them. Absolutely. And then,
Right.
and the other one is,
Literally.
yeah, the other one is stop saying yes to everything. We have a tendency to say, look, I was room mom every year. My oldest was at elementary school. Why? Because I felt like that was my thing I had to do. I hated it and I was drowning, but they would come to me and say, would you do it? And I'm like, oh yeah, I'd love to do it. Thinking, how am I going to fit this in my schedule? Then I realized there was so many other people out there that really wanted to do it. So, again, what are we saying yes to that doesn't help us reach our goals? As
Right.
a child, I was to be seen, not heard, say
Mhm.
yes, be nice to everyone. And so that kind of resonated with me, feeling like, well, if I say yes to everything, then I'm being kind. I really chose to reframe it in my own mind. And again, I'm not perfect at this now, but I reframe it in my own mind. If I say no to something, it's giving someone else an opportunity. And that makes me be able to say no without feeling guilty. And the other trick that I've learned is I can't say yes immediately because I'll be talking to somebody and they'll say, I need your help. And I'll be like, oh, yes, yes, I would love to help you. Because I think we just innately, we want to help people. But then I get home and I go, oh my gosh, I don't have time to do this. And so I've kind of put in my own thing as I say, I have to go back and check my calendar because I'm not doing them any favors by not being effective for them. So that
Mhm.
gives me an opportunity to really look at my calendar and say, how can I help this person? No, I don't have the time. I don't have the desire. And maybe even I'll recommend somebody else that's a better fit than me. But it's
Mhm.
giving other people opportunity and me stop saying yes to things that really just don't help me reach my goals. As a mom and as an entrepreneur, our time is limited, as we all know. So it's incredibly important, in my opinion, to control your time because if you don't control it, everyone else will.
Oh yeah, it's just something that we constantly have to revisit.
Yeah, yes. Because where's my time? At some
Right.
point, we need some time for ourselves. And that's usually what
Mhm.
sacrifice is our
Mhm.
own time. So
Mhm.
if we're saying no to certain things, that gives us the opportunity to say yes to us and that time that we really need to either decompress, finish something, go for a walk, something that's going to re-energize us.
Two really important tips. I talk to women a lot, or I see them. They're wondering why they're underperforming in their business, but they are all the things, the room mom, the dance mom, all of the things. And something's got to give. And you have to decide, like you said, what is your priority? What is, and making that conscious choice and sticking with it is so powerful. But also, one of the things that we have to do, even though we might be dropping the perfectionism and we might be setting boundaries with our time, we also have to learn how to be calm in our leadership and being clear and direct, and despite the chaos that we might be dealing with. So, what are some tips that you found help you do that?
Clarity, in my opinion, is a key component. People will say, I have very high expectation for the folks that work for me, but I'm also very clear about what those expectations are. And I think sometimes we avoid hard conversations, like we feel like feedback and things like that are a negative. I like to turn them into a positive because people want to grow, women want to grow. And if we're not giving them insight as to how they can grow, then we're not helping our teams you
Mm-hmm.
know and I think people just automatically assume that goes to the negative. No, it can be a positive and a negative. It's all about how you present things. So I think being very clear and very direct is incredibly important and will save you a lot of headache and hassle. but you also have to let go. And this took me a long time to do throughout my entrepreneurial journey, is letting go of things. Because again, we think we can always do things better, and we're so used to controlling our environment so much. But letting go and saying, how can I give up some of these things to folks that are with me? And I tell people all the time, if you can't take initiative and do it, then you're not the right person for my team. Because if I'm doing your job, why do I need you? And so
Mhm.
as long as I'm very direct, very clear with my communications, and they know what the expectation is at the end of the day, I had to let go of how they got there, right?
Mhm.
Because they may not do it the way I would have done it, but as long as the objective gets done, then I had to say, you know what, maybe my way is not always the best and the right way.
I think what I also hear you saying is like having clear processes and having clear systems and
Absolutely.
a way to communicate keeps things from being chaotic.
It really does. Think
Yeah.
about with your kids. It really
Hmm.
does. And so if you have that in place, then there's
Hmm.
no miscommunications, because what I realized early on in my career is that I spent more time trying to clarify than anything. Well, that was on me because I
Hmm.
wasn't communicating clearly as to what was needing to be done. So I do think being clear and being direct is very important.
And it keeps you from being in this reactive state
Mhm.
where nobody wants to be. If you're planning ahead and you know you have a system for what's coming, then things are all. I mean, I've even talked to women who even have a process for how to have somebody shop for them for groceries and have
Yep.
gotten that minute. And I think that that's so great. And we think, like, oh no, we can't be to that level. But anything that causes you pain in your personal or your professional life can absolutely be taken to that degree where somebody can help offload something that may be creating chaos in your life. Um,
Well, and I even do that with my family, Angela. I mean, every Sunday night we have kind of what we call logistics meeting, right? Because how many of us have been at 10:30 at night and your child comes in and says, I need a poster board.
right,
Well, why is your crisis becoming my crisis? And
right.
so we'll have a meeting on Sundays and we'll sit down and kind of go through who's responsible for what. And I'm delegating to them things within our household because I
Hmm.
want them to take initiative and I want them to feel like they're contributing. So a lot of the things that I do in my work, I do at home as well.
Right. Oh no, 100%. It's like when I need my family to show up on time for something certain and having that and it seems like no, we don't need to get to that degree. We tell ourselves, or at least I do, or used to, like, oh, we'll be fine. But no, I hate
No,
the stress so
yeah.
much. And it's like magic when you talk about it ahead of time.
Yeah, yeah. It's like, how can I minimize the amount of decisions that I have to make in a day? And
Yes.
that's my goal, is how do I minimize the amount of decisions I have to
That's
make?
a great way to put it because I don't know a mom who doesn't get decision fatigue.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
like,
and usually you get to dinner, it's like, where are we going to dinner? Nobody wants to answer. Well, I don't
yeah,
want to be the one making the decision. I'm exhausted from decisions. So
right.
yes, it's just, how do you minimize those?
Yeah. No, I love that. And so much of what is connected with the calm is, I think, having this emotional intelligence that you talk about, which is so important to leadership. So, talk about how we can use that. And I really think that moms are predisposed and often pre qualified in leadership
Hmm.
positions because we have a tendency to be cued into emotions. So, I like to bring out those things that we just don't realize that we're even doing that makes us great leaders.
There's so many qualities innate to us as females that, to your point, we don't utilize. We could look at them as a negative, not a positive. And
Right.
I think they're superpowers, frankly, and
Yeah.
emotional intelligence. We
Right.
learn that with, I'll go back to our children. We learn it with our kids. How do we control our emotions, and how are we able to control and help foster others' emotions? And
Hmm.
I think that's incredibly important in business, because if you're not looking at your staff in a way where it's not just about the job, it's about the whole person,
Mm.
we care. I think most of us are empathetic, most of us are compassionate. So why aren't we utilizing those traits as leaders When I started utilizing those traits and started looking at like, I've had emotions. People say, don't show emotions at work. Well, I show emotion. I cried through one meeting, and I know a lot of people would probably say it was completely unprofessional, but it was a hard meeting. And my staff appreciated that because I'm not just this person, cold-hearted individual. We all have emotions. And I think it's important for us as leaders to make sure that we're not just making sure the employees doing their job and those tasks, but also how are they as an individual and how can I help you create an environment where you're going to be successful? And that's by knowing them and knowing how to deal with what works for them, kind of like your kids, not all things work for each kid the same. How can I effectively communicate with you where it's best for you? How can I set an office up where it works best for you? I think it's important for us to understand and look at it from not just a task oriented, but an overall and emotional intelligence.
As you were talking, I thought about this, and as moms, we're often really good at sometimes assessing what others need. But because we're so busy pleasing everybody else and taking care of everybody else, we're not as dialed in with voicing what we need. So I think that's also a really key component to delivering that
Mm.
emotional intelligence.
Yeah. For sure. And that's hard for all of us. Again, we're so used to putting everybody else first, and that's okay. I always call it season and reason. We're in different places in our lives. I think that's really important for us to evaluate too, is where are you in your life? 20 years ago, it was great. I didn't have any kids, so I could do whatever I wanted and focus on my career. And then when I had my daughter, my first daughter, it was an interesting, my priorities started to change a little bit, and it wasn't good or bad, but just again your priorities. So I think it's really important for us to look at, we can do long-term goals, 5 years, 10 years, which we all know things can happen and totally blow it up. But I think it's really important to look at, 3 months, 6 months, and where am I in my career and in my life, and what's important now. I call it my win strategy. What's important now? Because what's important 10 years ago may be different than right now. And so I think we put so much pressure on ourselves that we have to do certain things at certain times, but maybe it's better to wait 6 months because, again, you're now in a different situation with a child, or your aging parents is another one that we're dealing with, a lot of us at my age. There's just a lot of things happening. So I think it's important to take that into consideration. And then taking care of yourself. I put a meeting on the calendar every week, once or twice. That's with me.
Mhm.
And I tell people all the time, do you cancel meetings with clients? Do you cancel doctor's appointments? No. Why are you canceling meetings on yourself? Because that time, whether it's, I love to go walk outside, just makes me feel good. It re-energizes me. Whether I'm listening to a podcast like yours, or if I'm reading a book, listening to a book, it gives me an opportunity to just recharge. And I think that that's one thing that we take for granted. And that's a key component to the burnout. And so I tell everybody, put a meeting on your calendar once a week. Just start with that, 30 minutes, but it's a non-negotiable. And this is for me, whether I want to sit in the dark and cry or if I want to go for a walk, it gives you a chance to really, to your point, sit down and think about some of those things.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think that ties in beautifully about what I was going to ask you about next, because we have so much technology, we have AI, we have all of these things, and we're looking for that authenticity. We're looking for that honesty in our leaders. And you've talked about so much that kind of plays into that. Is there
Mhm.
anything else that you would want to add to how we can show up honestly and just drop the perfectionism and really find a lot of power in a leadership role doing that?
I think it's super important to practice what you preach. Let me just say that. And I think when we show up as leaders and I say, hey guys, I'm going to leave and go watch my daughter's softball game, right? I want people to understand that's important to me. And so they are not concerned about coming to me and saying, hey, I'd really like to go see my son's game. Again, it's leading by example. And if you build a culture and you do the things that you're encouraging your staff to do, that's going to create a very safe place for them. If you're taking interest in who they are as a person and their family, again, I think as a leader, the most important thing you can do is create a safe space. That safe space is going to allow your employees to be themselves, but also they're going to want to be there. They're going to be more productive because they enjoy it. And I think that's critical. And I think we've gotten away from that a little bit, that human connection because of AI. I think AI does a lot of great things, but I do think as leaders, we need to take that into consideration and continue to utilize that connection aspect.
Yeah, and I think doing so much online, just like having this interview and meetings, it's disconnected us from like real people and real lives behind the cameras, behind the Zoom. And so I think that's so important. But as parents, that also stretches us to show up authentically for our families. And then our children are learning that. It just has this ripple effect that so many moms say, I can't become a business owner because I'm a mom. But there's so many things you learn as a business owner that make you a better parent if you go about it the right way. And this is just one of them. So I love that. So let's talk about the invisible load that we're carrying too. I love that this is really coming to the forefront of so many conversations right now because it's something that's been going on for a long time. And
Yeah.
so
Welcome, guys. Yeah, where
I
have y'all
know,
been? We've been
right?
doing this forever. Right. Hello. Yes. Thank you for acknowledging it. Yes.
Right.
Yes. Yes.
So do you have any ways that you help manage the invisible load that you have that our listeners could find helpful?
Sure. There's certain things that I've learned over the time. Again, I used to never want to ask for help. Now I'm like anybody that can help, I'm like I'm in. And it takes a village, especially with these kids and they're all over scheduled these days. Logistics alone, I tell everybody I'm a bus driver. Logistics alone is a nightmare. And that's why we talked about a little bit about connection, but that's where I really use AI, to be honest.
Mhm.
I want to make the least amount of decisions. And so I use AI in ways that can help me be more efficient and do the things that I don't really want to do. Like, for instance, weekly meal lists, my grocery list, things like that, that would have taken me hours to do. I can do it
Mhm.
very quickly now with AI. So,
Mhm.
those are the things that I try to utilize to free up time. So,
Mhm.
again, I'm a better person at the end of
Mhm.
the day because when I have to do all of that load plus work plus the kids, it's overwhelming. I used to be like Amazon. I used to make fun of people. I'm like, oh my gosh, use Amazon all the time. What are you doing? How hard is it to get in the car and go to the store? Oh my gosh, I was the idiot, right? Because now I'm like, I just ordered that and it just saved me 30 minutes of my day of having to run to the store. So I think
Yeah.
that all those things that I felt guilty because I felt like I was cheating, it's
Mhm.
not cheating, it's strategic.
Right.
And I flipped that switch in my own head of from cheating to strategic. And now I'm like, oh, I'm
Mhm.
the smartest person in the world. I just ordered all my stuff and it's going to be here
Right.
tomorrow. And I just saved myself 2 hours. So now I have more time with my family.
Yeah.
And when I hear a lot of parents say, "Oh, I'm a great parent because I'm with my kids all the time." Are you? Because I'm a big one about quality time, not quantity time. And my kids know this. My kids know that I need a purpose. And I sat down
Mhm.
and talked to my kids about it because where are you going? Why are you leaving? Why are you traveling? I sat them down and said, "Look, I want to have a purpose too. And it's important for me to help people." And it was interesting how just a light bulb went on. And just a quick story, because I gave up a lot with my career with my children, and there was a lot of guilt that went along with that. I sold my business. My daughter was 5. I didn't even know what she ate for lunch. And I'm sure a lot of people will judge me for that, but I just didn't. I was so focused on my career. A couple weeks ago, I was inducted into the Texas Women's Hall of Fame here in Houston, and my daughter went, my oldest. And I came off the stage and she was just crying. And I'm like, oh my gosh, did somebody trigger you? And I was hugging her and she looked me in the eye and she goes, Mom, I've never been so proud to be your daughter. And I realized in that moment, all that guilt I was carrying, what I was doing is setting a great role model for my daughter that you can do it all. It doesn't have to be perfect, but you can do it, right?
Mhm.
If this is something you want to do. But she also sees me on the good days, the bad days, and she sees me ask for help. And I think that's so important. So I use a lot of AI. I do use a lot of help in regards to there's things that I don't physically need to be doing and I have the ability to get help, I'll do that. And I think that that's just because it makes me a better person, it makes me a better parent, it makes me a better leader at the same time.
Right. I love that. I have my own story about Instacart, and I was complaining about having to go to this Costco, which is takes me an hour or more. And I'm like, I don't
Yep.
have that time. And my daughter's like, do Instacart. And I'm like, I'm not doing that. Like,
Yep. Yeah, that's a waste. That's cheating. That's what I used to tell people.
right. Well,
Wrong.
like, we
Yes.
don't get a medal for doing everything the hard way.
That's right. That's right.
There would be a
That's
lot of
exactly
medals
right.
going around.
That's exactly right. So why are we doing that to ourselves? Because we feel like we have to
Yeah.
do it.
Yep.
It's kind of like changing our own mindset a little bit of
It's a
how
lot.
can I make my life easier? And that's what I've really tried to do. So I'm not perfect at it, but I mean, I will cheat at this point. I don't care what
Right.
it is. I will cheat if it makes my life easier.
Well, I love it. There's so much fear around AI and okay, let's for whatever reason if you're intimidated about using it in your business, I think it's brilliant to use it in your life to help you manage things, some recipes, lists. I've got all this to do. How should I approach it? And AI can definitely help you with that and I
And
love it.
Angela, yeah, and can I talk about something with work and
Yeah.
how I utilize AI at work? Because I
Yeah.
think that's critical too. A lot of us think, oh, create this document for me. Well, that's
Mhm.
great. But what I really use it for is to be a thought leader with me. And
Mhm.
especially for entrepreneurs, it's a lonely world we live in when you're an entrepreneur and there's so many things you're trying to navigate. It really, I use it for challenging me on certain things that I'm doing. Like my board reports. I've got all my personas for my board members. Tell me what questions they're going to ask me. So I'm preparing myself in a way that doesn't cause me a lot of anxiety.
Mhm.
Whereas we used to, it was like the unknown. You walk in, you have no idea what's preparing for everything. Now, as a thought partner with AI, I'm able to let it where are my blind spots as a
Mhm.
leader, which I thought was really interesting. And boy, it was accurate and almost scary accurate. How can I be a better leader? What are
Mhm.
some different ways I could have handled these situations? Just things that would have taken us hours or months to figure out. AI has given us the opportunity to be able to have it at our fingertips. And
Right.
I hear what you're saying about people say, oh, AI, I'm scared of it.
Right.
I just started using it. I didn't know if I was using
Mhm.
it right or wrong,
Mhm.
but all of a sudden I started realizing the things because it's so overwhelming. There's so many different platforms.
Mhm.
Gamma in regards to slide decks. Oh my gosh, it makes my slide decks in 10 minutes versus taking hours. So again, don't be scared to utilize
Mhm.
systems that you think can help you become more efficient with your time. You won't regret that.
I love that message because I think that there's a lot of fear. And I think when you stop using it in a two dimensional kind of way, and like you
Mhm.
said, using the word partner, like an assistant, it's there as a resource, but not just to create things for you, but you to interact with it and to help you be better. I love that.
And I do it a lot. I'm sorry, I do it a
Yeah.
lot in the car between pickups. Okay. There's ways of using,
Oh,
I'm listening to music. Why don't I talk to
yeah.
chat so he can tell me what I need to do? So there's a lot of ways of utilizing it
Yeah.
so it doesn't cause you more time, but helps you with that downtime that you have.
I love that you mentioned that because I think at some point we're always finding ourselves in the car with gaps of time, and
Yes.
utilizing those little gaps are just so critical to leveling up, I think. So I love that you mentioned that. I'm always looking for a
Yeah.
creative way to use that time that I have to sit in the car and wait on somebody or whatever.
Practice the 45 minutes you don't have time to go
Right.
home and it's dead time. So like I've
Right.
gotten real creative, needless to say. As entrepreneurs, we get real creative real quick. So those are just some of my tricks to the trade of being able to utilize that time so I don't feel guilty for just sitting there.
Right. I love it. Before we wrap up, I wanted to ask you about I know you talk about motivation and momentum, and I know so much of that is releasing the perfectionism, but I think
Mhm.
it's something that, we have this pressure to constantly be on and to create the perfect content and to always be supercharged as leaders in our businesses. So, what thoughts do you have around that?
Do you want my honest thoughts?
Yeah.
Stop. Because none of us do. Okay. People always see me like, you're always happy. Yeah. Because you don't see me on the bad days. Look, we're all struggling. That's just a reality. So I think if you can acknowledge that and acknowledge that, hey, not everything's going to be perfect. I had to go from, is it good enough?
Yeah.
Right. Because there are times where I would just mull over something for days. And then I'm like,
Mm.
wait a minute, it's good enough. And so I think it's really about changing our mindset, but
Mm-hmm.
also giving yourself a lot of self-compassion. I think that's the one
Mm-hmm.
thing we give it to everybody else. We don't give it to ourselves. And why is that? We don't talk to other people the way we talk to ourselves. I think that's really understanding and making sure, look, entrepreneurship, business, it's hard. There's
Mm-hmm.
never a perfect path. You're going to have to pivot. It's like whiplash constantly. Know that going in and know that it's not going to be unicorns and rainbows all the time,
Yeah.
but be prepared and be like, hey, you know what? I'm going to fail.
Mm-hmm.
We all do, but that doesn't make me a failure. It's what did I learn from that fail or that mistake? How can I pivot? Changing the mindset of I'm a failure, I can't do this to I'm now learning things that I would have never learned if I hadn't gone. I think we
Mm-hmm.
get in this paralysis by analysis mentality. I would rather try it and see if it works or not, because it doesn't mean I'm a failure. It just means I had a great life learn lesson that I can pivot. And so I think it's really around the mindset and how you want to look at things.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a big one for victim roles. Like your circumstances don't really impact your life. Your decisions impact your life and how you want to live it. And so I think it's really just taking control and realizing you're the only one that can make those decisions. If you want to be burnt out, that's probably your fault because you need to look at your calendar and say, what can I not have to do? And I'm not saying this with everyone, but I do think that reevaluating and making sure that you're living by how you want your life to live versus what everyone tells you it needs to be.
100%. I love that. Before we wrap up, I just wanted to know, what do you hope women, especially moms in leadership, give themselves permission to do after listening to this conversation? And you just alluded to it, but do you have anything to add to it?
I just hope they give themselves some self compassion. I hope that they realize that we're all struggling.
Yeah.
And if somebody tells you they're not, they're lying. Okay. That's just the reality. So I think it's self compassion and knowing that it's not going to be perfect and it's not going to be easy, but you can accomplish whatever you want if you're able to get out of that perfection mindset.
Yeah, it's everything. Thank you so much, Chantell, for your wisdom and insight from decades of experience and motherhood. And it really is just so empowering when someone with your experience just takes a moment to say, you know what, I'm still a work in progress too. It gives
Yeah.
us all a lot of permission. So I love that and I appreciate the conversation. So you also have a new book that's coming out soon. Where can listeners connect with you and also find your book?
So super excited about my book. The title is called The Success Lie, and it's reframing your reality to thrive personally and professionally. A lot of the conversation we had here today, Amazon, your local bookstore, but also you can reach out at getrealgetresults.com. I've got some offerings for your listeners, a little bit of a sneak peek for the book and maybe a little workbook that might help them. So it's getrealgetresults.com. And then feel free to go on to any of my social as well as follow my podcast, Get Real, Get Results.
I love it. And I'll leave all those links in the show notes below.
Awesome.
Thank you for the wonderful conversation, Chantell.
Thanks, Angela. Have a great day.
You too.